Welcome back, guys, to the Super Mario Bros. 1 Remake on the Super Mario Maker for the Wii U. We are now on World 5-1. This is a pretty straightforward stage. It mostly has long stretches with pretty large groups of Koopas and Goombas. They can be easily taken out by throwing a Koopa shell and running with it, or you can simply stomp them or jump over them. There's a bonus room near the end of this stage, as you can see. It's easy to remember which pipe takes you to it because it's the only one that's not connected to the ground in this stage. You'll be right next to the flagpole once you've exited the bonus room, so just make your way to the right and end this stage. Time for stage 5-2. This level has a bonus room that takes you to an underwater area. There's also another Coin Heaven segment in this stage as well. I stated in the last part that I couldn't make the rail platforms sit in place until you jumped on them. Well, it's been brought to my attention that it is, in fact, possible to create those kind of platforms. You can do that by shaking the normal rail platforms to create the kind that don't move until they're stepped on. With that in mind, I fixed that issue in the Coin Heaven segment in this stage. I remember whenever I was a kid and I made it to one of the Coin Heaven areas in the original Super Mario Bros., I could never leave a coin behind. If I missed a coin, then I would jump back to get it, which would cause me to lose even more coins than if I would have just ignored it and stayed on the platform, since the platform would keep going on without me. We're just about to the end of the stage. Alright, time for stage 5-3. Alright, time for yet another mushroom hopping stage. In the original Super Mario Bros., this level would have bullet bills randomly being fired at you as you made your way through the stage. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a way to recreate that in this remake. Basically, it came down to placing the bullet bill cannons in random places, or omitting them altogether. I decided to cut them out because I didn't want the cannons to get in the way of how the original stage was supposed to be played. Time for the World 5 Castle. I always really liked the gigantic fire bar that's located at the beginning of the level. It looks pretty cool in my opinion. Like with most castle stages, the only real enemies are fire bars and potaboos. You'll have some bricks above you whenever you get to Bowser, and you'll also have a potaboo jumping around as well. If you're Super Mario, then just break the bricks and climb on top of them to have an easier time getting past Bowser. It's now time for World 6. Like World 3, World 6 was another world that looked like it was nighttime in the original Super Mario Bros. This stage is pretty straightforward. There aren't any bonus rooms, nor is there a Coin Heaven segment. The most annoying thing about this stage is the Lakitu, but not even he is that bad. Another thing that's different here in the remake is that you can ride in Lakitu's cloud if you defeat him, which is pretty cool. Onward to stage 6-2. World 6-2 has quite a few different bonus rooms, 3 to be exact. 2 of them lead to underground areas and 1 leads to an underwater segment. I could only recreate one of those bonus rooms though, so I decided to remake the underwater section. Admittedly, I chose to recreate it because I wanted an excuse to play around with the underwater level editor some more, but hey, that's a good enough excuse for me. There's also another Coin Heaven area in this stage as well. So yeah, this stage has quite a bit going for it, it seems. We're just about to the end of the level. Alright, time for World 6-3. This was always one of my favorite stages in the original Super Mario Bros. Because it looked like everything was iced over. The stage didn't have any ice physics or anything, but it certainly looked like it should have had them. Regardless, we got yet another mushroom hopping stage. I always liked how they combined springs with the weight shifting platforms in the original game throughout this stage. Unfortunately, I couldn't recreate the weight shifting platforms, but oh well. Alright, time for the World 6 Castle. This castle is basically a revamped version of the World 1 castle, with the main difference being more fire bars and the inclusion of potaboos, which you should be plenty familiar with how to handle by this point in the game. In the original game, Bowser would have the ability to throw hammers in this castle, but I couldn't recreate that here in the remake. He also has a potaboo in his lair as well, so at least I was able to recreate that. Time for World 7.
Mario #1! Woohoo!
This is another pretty straightforward stage. You mostly see a lot of bullet bills with a couple of Hammer Brothers here and there as you make your way through the level. They shouldn't pose too much of a threat though. There's also a bonus room with some coins about halfway through the stage after you pass the first group of Hammer Brothers, as you just saw. One thing that I always liked about this stage is that you have 2 stair formations to climb at the end of the level. I don't know why, but I always really liked climbing them while trying not to lose my momentum. Onward to World 7 too.
Oh yeah, Mario time!
Time for another underwater stage. I remember whenever I used to play the original Super Mario Bros. As a kid, I always hated playing through the underwater stages if I wasn't Fire Mario. Nowadays it isn't such a big deal, but as a kid I really hated trying to swim around the bloopers and Cheep Cheeps with no way to kill them. One way to avoid the bloopers is to stay along the very bottom of the lowest platform. They'll always leave that one space alone, so you'll be safe there. Keep in mind that if a lot of bloopers start to gang up on you, just hang out at the bottom and then quickly swim away whenever the time is right. The difference between the red and green Cheep Cheeps is the green ones will keep swimming straight ahead, whereas the red ones will swim back and forth like they're patrolling the area. One new trick that Mario gained in the new Super Mario Bros. Games is that he can keep kicking his feet if you hold the jump button. That'll cause him to sink slower than usual, thus allowing for somewhat easier swimming controls. We are just about to the end of the stage. Just like with the last underwater level, I decided to put the flagpole in the water. Once again, it really doesn't matter where it's located at, and it was just as easy to leave it in the underwater area. Time for World 7-3.
Oh yeah, Mario time!
Alright, this is another flying Cheep Cheep stage. Just like with the last one of these stages, I couldn't really find a good way to make the flying Cheep Cheeps work. Sure, they can still get you if you take it slowly or if you stand around, but I would have preferred it if they would have jumped really high in an attempt to get you instead of bouncing around at the bottom before hopping up to the bridge. Oh well though, I did the best that I could with this stage. Time to take out the World 7 castle.
Mario time!
In the original Super Mario Bros., this was another stage that was a maze and you were forced to take a certain path through it, otherwise you'd have to start the area over. Unfortunately, I couldn't recreate that here in the remake. The stage is also pretty empty of enemies. There are only 4 enemies in the entire stage, including Bowser. There's 2 Potaboos, one of which is at the bridge with Bowser, and a single fire bar. Just like before, Bowser would normally have the ability to throw hammers in this castle in the original game, which couldn't be recreated in the remake. Alright, time for the final world of the game. World 8-1 is pretty straightforward, but it does have a really good variety of enemies to destroy. This stage is also pretty long. So long, in fact, that I had to make the second half of the stage in the sub-area here in the remake because there wasn't enough room to create the entire stage in the main area, which also means that I wasn't able to create the bonus room that would normally be in this stage, but that's okay. Some of the jumps that would have been kinda tricky to make in the original Super Mario Bros. Are made a total joke here in the remake thanks to Mario's mid-air spin jump. Another new skill that Mario has gained in the remake is the ground pound, which doesn't really have that many uses considering this is a remake of a game that never required it for defeating certain enemies or destroying various things underneath you. Alright, time for World 8-2.
Oh yeah, Mario time!
This stage is shorter than the previous one, but it puts some of the enemies that we didn't see in World 8-1 to good use, like Lakitus and Bullet Bills. There's also a bonus room near the end of the stage with some coins as well. One thing that I kinda like about the World 8 stages is that the stair formations at the end of each stage have gaps with endless pits in them. I like that because it makes for some tighter and more precise platforming. We're not too much further from the end of the stage. We just got to avoid a few more minor enemies and then we'll be at the flagpole. Onward to World 8-3.
Oh yeah, Mario time!
This is another pretty straightforward stage. There aren't any bonus rooms and you'll mostly be avoiding Hammer Brothers as you make your way through the level. Visually speaking, this was my favorite stage in the original Super Mario Bros. I really liked how it looked like you were running along the castle wall to Bowser's final fortress as you avoided his toughest minions, aka the Hammer Brothers. It was just a really cool build-up to the final stage, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, Mario time.
Alright, we are now on the final stage of the remake. In the original game, this was a huge maze with a lot of sub-areas, but as I said before, I can only recreate one sub-area per stage, and so I couldn't even begin to recreate this stage in its full glory, unfortunately. I decided to include the underwater area, however, the pipe that takes you there was not the same pipe that took you there in the original game. Oh well, though, I did the best that I could with the limitations that I had. The battle against Bowser in this castle is actually easier than some of the previous battles that you had with him. In the original game, he can only throw hammers with no bricks or other obstacles in the way, which is strange because you'd think that they would try to throw everything at you for the final battle. Whatever the case though, this now concludes the Super Mario Bros. 1 remake on the Super Mario Maker for the Wii U. This project may be done, but stay tuned because there's more Super Mario Maker to come. That is it for part 2.